Hello, friends. Welcome to the Hydro Chronicle podcast with your host, Rich Hamilton.
Hello and welcome back to the Hydro Chronicle podcast. On today's show, I was speaking with Nav from Trichome Jungle Seeds. He's an absolute super guy. We hung out before the show and we hung out after the show. It's absolutely awesome spending time with this guy. Please go and check out his Instagram and social media at Trichome Jungle Seeds. And I hope you enjoyed the interview. Introducing Trichome Jungle Seeds. On the Hydro Chronicle podcast today, we've got Nav from Trichome Jungle Seeds. How's it going, buddy?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, dude. Good. So, let's start at the beginning. For the people that don't know you, and for the listeners that don't know you, I don't know how, because you seem to have blown up everywhere at the moment. So where did it all start for you?
On Breed Bay, pretty much. On the days when more people were on the forums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was IC Mag was being used a lot of the time, and for me, Breed Bay was my main place. And at the time, I'd sort of made a few just crosses with no real goal behind them.
So you just sort of started out just doing a bit of growing, then just thinking, right, I'm going to do some crosses.
Yeah, that's it. The growing came well before. We were growing, a few of us all for years and years before we'd even really thought about making a cross or anything.
Right.
But then I decided to have a go at making some seeds, and from there, then I started to learn more about the actual breeding of plants.
Yeah.
And then actually having a goal behind my breeding, and I think that's when I changed from more of just chucking pollen, I would say,
right, okay,
to being more of thinking more like a breeder.
Right, so sort of a more focused sort of aim as opposed to sort of trying to throw something in and get an X factor out.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. What's your strains that you're big for, that you're known for?
Mandarina is one of the main ones, I think.
Right.
That's a cross of an Agent Orange plant.
Okay.
From TGA Seed Subcool, and I crossed it with a Pinomite Shiva male, and that one came from Sonic Seeds.
Right, okay.
And then from that I outcrossed it and then back crossed it a few times, and each time I've back crossed it I've released a different version of it.
Right.
You get the exact same terps, which is the main thing, but sometimes you see some difference in the growth from each generation.
Just some different expressions in the plant.
Yes. Yeah.
So just for the listeners that don't know some of the terminology, what do you mean by back crossing?
Okay, so that's for the Mandarina. What we would do is the main Mandarina clone, which is the selected one.
Yeah.
I would go from the seeds again and select a male and go back to the original female.
Right. Okay.
And each generation from seeds again, you can select another male.
Right.
And go back to the original female.
Okay.
So each time you do that, back cross one. So that sometimes you'll see a BX, BX1 and BX2. And that's how many back crosses they've done.
Right, okay. And why would you do that back cross? Just for looking for a pheno, or just to sort of get a sturdy...
For me, to stabilise the line. So for me, it's getting those orangey, fizzy Mandarin terps.
Yeah.
And each time selecting for just those ones. So I would say the first generation of Mandarina, there was lots of orange terps, but they were very varied. Some were more spiced orange, some were more bitter orange, some were more sweet orange. And then for next generation, I concentrated on more of that fizzy, sweet orange. And that's what I concentrated on for the next two generations after that.
So those generations, you literally say, let's just say, for example, there's 100. You'll go through those, you'll pull those, and you'll just take the characteristics and then...
Yeah, from a set amount. We'll say from 50 seeds.
Yeah.
I'll grow them out, but I'm going for a male and going back to my original female.
Right.
So it's the females for me aren't that important. What I'm seeing from the females is how stable each line is. So if I'm seeing most of the females are coming out really, really fizzy orange, then it's easier for me to pick a male that's going to be really orangey and fizzy as well.
And do you get many mutations as you're crossing and back crossing? Do you get some that are just complete sort of pigs and just sort of genetically sort of a bit twisted?
The only thing I've had a problem with the Mandarina was making S1s off it.
Okay.
And those produce too many hermaphrodite problems.
Right. And again, just for the listeners, sorry, what S1?
S1 is when you self a plant. So it's my original Mandarina clone.
Yep.
And I've got 2 clones, and one clone I reverse and turn into a male.
Right. How do you do that, if you don't mind me
This
asking?
is using STS spray.
Right. Okay.
You can also use colloidal silver.
Yeah.
People use different techniques, but that's one way of reversing your plant and then making the female male.
Right.
So then you can I pollinated it self,
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah.
And hoping to get almost like a feminized Mandarina line,
Right.
and that didn't work for me.
Okay.
But using a separate Mandarina female, that worked. But the S1 didn't work too well. So you can have some problems, like you say, mutations or
As
problems.
it's going through sort of the generations as you're crossing it forwards and backwards. What's on the horizon? What's the plan next? What's the big
Lilt.
lilt?
Yeah, this is
Is this top secret?
Well, no, a lot of people have tried the lilt.
Okay.
I released it just, it was more of like a limited line.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have found some superb plants from it. It's just super tropical.
Right.
And more on that pineapple, passion fruit, like tropical cocktail, tropical fruit juice type thing. But a few people have selected some nice clones which are going around.
Okay.
Some are going around the UK, there's some going around Spain. So, but everybody's finding these really nice phenos from it.
And are those plants, when you're breeding a plant, when you're looking to actually take that to market, with the actual flower, are you looking for taste and consistency, or are you looking for sort of like a high or a low, or are you looking for a yield? What's sort of your game with the seeds that you have?
Yeah, see, it all depends on what I'm actually working, which lines I'm working. But one of my main things is flavour, the terps,
Yeah.
This is one of the main things I've always sort of bred for. Yield can be done through the selection. If you're selecting plants that taste really nice for what you want, obviously try and pick the ones that yield a little bit more as well. So this all comes into the selection process.
Yeah.
But the lilt itself, I'm going to be doing a lot more crosses with the lilt. So I've just done one now, which is a soulmate. It hasn't been released yet. This is all in testing at the moment. So
I can see you smiling. So you're happy with it so far?
So far, so good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that just the name lilt. Everybody knows lilt, and I can picture it, and almost sort of smell it now. Like you're saying, it's going to have that pineapple. It's going to be light. It's going to be fruity.
Yeah.
I bet it's quite a light bud as well, is it, or is it dark?
No, it's quite light. It reminds me of like an old skunk, really.
Right.
Yeah, like a light green, limey green sort of bud. Yeah.
What sort of side is it leaning on? Sativa?
More on the sativa side, but I would class it as like a more of a short sativa. It's not one of these very tall, stretchy sativas. So yeah, and the soulmate that I've crossed it with this is from Bodhi, Bodhi seeds. Amazing plant.
Really?
But what the male's added is very different than what I anticipated.
Has it got? I mean, I'm just trying to picture it now. When you've got something that fresh and that tropical and that, I mean, it literally sounds delicious. When you're crossing it over, is that bringing a depth of flavour into it as well as a freshness?
Yes, but then it all depends. So what I'm doing at the moment, I've crossed quite a few of my known clones.
Yeah.
And also a few of my new sort of, we call it the sacred selection at the moment. So I've crossed them all with the soulmate, and we're seeing quite different results through each plant and what the soulmate's adding to each one.
Right.
So the soulmate has been dominant on some, less dominant on others, and even some which have produced a total new flavour altogether, unlike either one of the parents.
Really?
Like we've just done the Mandarina cross with the soulmate.
Yeah.
And some of the phenos have got no Mandarina smell and none of the soulmate smell, but have this like weird tropical rubber plasticky strange smell, but in a really nice way, in a sweet unique way.
Right. Sort of one of those smells you smell and you instantly like,
what's that?
Yeah. I think that's what we're looking for. Obviously we're out here in BCN in Barcelona city. We've just been to the One Up Club, so I just want to say big up to One Up Club. They're awesome guys there, and it just seems there's a lot of stuff going around. There's a lot of bags being opened. There's a lot of bags being passed around, and the bags that I saw you passing around and that you've got and your product that you showed me, I mean, that's first class. from being in several clubs over the last couple of days, there's nothing that smells as strong as yours, or I'm quite as excited about that flower. It looks and smells incredible.
Yeah, and that batch was grown by one of my friends, so that wasn't even by myself. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like a blind test for you then. You sort of letting it go and.
Yeah, no, he's helped me do the selection. So this guy, he's on Instagram and stuff like that. A guy called Farmer in the Hole.
Okay.
But he's helped me out this year with doing some of the sacred selections, and now he's continuing to grow out the selected clones that we've done.
Right.
And this is the his third batch now. So each time he's been tweaking it.
Right.
And I think this is one of the nicest batches.
And how does he grow it? Is he growing organic? Is he in the hydro system, or what is it?
He's in he's like drippers,
Right.
but
Okay.
he uses he grows in cocoa.
Yeah.
Which I used to grow in cocoa a lot more, but the last few times I've gone back to soil.
Okay. Is there a reason? Do you think?
I think like there's the soil with the organics brings out a slight sweeter sort of taste, and even some terpenes which can be lost, especially if you're growing in hydro, full on hydro. Those terpenes can be lost.
Right. Well, that's super interesting. I think there's a lot of people that I know that they're all cocoa. They're either cocoa or bubblers, depending on the year, depending on the season. And it's just nice to see people going from cocoa over to soil, because I'm a big believer that there is a depth and a richness to the flavour that just comes from the soil, just comes from the soil plant.
Yeah, I think cocoa can keep up with soil, but when you've got the same clones next to each other, that's when you really put it to the test.
Yeah.
So we've got all the same clones, and we can see it grown in soil, in cocoa, in hydro. Even like soil just with teas, and soil just with maybe bottle feeds. So and each time you can there's a difference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that there is a big difference, and those flavour profiles are affected by the nutrients that you're putting in 100%. I mean, that's my opinion, and I'm pretty much certain that's bob on. You just mentioned Shiva there. I was looking at that, I was smelling that. That's incredible. That's
Shiva stash.
That's incredible. That's Shiva stash. What's the parentage? What's the lineage behind that?
Okay,
lineage,
so that's from Colorado. Created a head stash strain, which was a cherry pie, Girl Scout cookie, and Camarado. And from that, I selected a female and crossed it with my Jungle Kush.
Yep.
And that's what we created the Shiva stash.
Wow. I'm looking forward to trying it later on.
Yeah, that's almost got like a super glue, sweet, almost, I don't know,
Christmassy pudding-y sort of richness.
Oh, you get that Christmas pudding, yeah? We had one female which was just straight up Christmas pudding.
Was it?
Yeah.
But in a good way. For
Yeah.
the people for the listeners, the Christmas pudding's kind of like Marmite for some people, isn't it? But there is that richness which is delicious. So if you like Christmas pudding,
I think it's almost like some people say cookie and has this like baked pudding type smell. It's like this has that, but with that more spiced smell. So that's why we're like Christmas. Do you know what I mean? These Christmas spices.
I was having a look at your seed packs as well. They're unique in a market that's real busy at the moment with packaging. It seems everyone seems to be sort of like kind of doing like rip-off versions of brands that are already out there. Lots of sort of gooey pictures and graffiti sort of style characters. But your packaging for your seeds is something that I've never seen before, and it's incredible. It's impressive, and it makes me want to look at it. Could you just, obviously, we're on a podcast, there's no pictures here, so could you explain it and the reasons behind that sort of style of packaging?
How it started, I've always tried to sort of like go down the more maybe organic type route, so I started with like hemp bags and doing some like lasered wood tags and things like this. But then for the sacred selection, I thought I wanted to go a little bit different. So I was sat there one day and I had a piece of quartz crystal and I had some diamond bits, and I like to do a little bit of carving and stuff like that. So I hollowed out a piece of crystal, and I had a little bit of cork, and I put it in there, and I was just looking at it in my hand, and I was just like, no. Can you imagine making all the seed vials out of crystal?
Wow.
Yeah. And then I was just like, can I even do this? Is it possible to like... But then I made another one, like a prototype, and I got that sent to somebody, and I was like, do you think we can make this like more on a sort of mass production type thing, and maybe do different types of crystals? So we did like amethyst, rose quartz, and clear quartz,
Did you marry those with the actual strains and the seeds that were there, or was that just kind of like random put in as?
Well, no. So what I've done, like for the first, it's not really to do with more the genetics and that, but like the one for February, I released the amethyst one, which is the month of February, and the stones go with it. And I might try and do things like that. So maybe each month try to do a different type of crystal related to that month, maybe. But the strains themselves, I just thought like they're so special, and this year, such a magic year, I thought they have to go in something seriously nice.
Special.
Yeah,
they're absolutely beautiful. And for everyone that's listening, I urge you to go and have a look at the website. Have you got a website, or is it Instagram?
Instagram mainly, yeah. That's what I use mainly now.
And what's your Instagram?
Trichome Jungle Seeds.
Trichome Jungle Seeds. And that range, what did you call that range? The crystal.
Sacred Selection.
The Sacred Selection. And what's in that Sacred Selection range?
Okay, so the first release was Tropical Cocktail.
Right.
Which is the mandarina with the soulmate, which I was just talking about.
Yeah.
And it's, I wouldn't say a super stable strain, for they're all coming out exactly the same. But for doing a selection and to find something very unique,
find something special,
that they've really proven themselves. We've had like, even on Instagram, there's like, I think there's 3 or 4 guys now that have grown them out and tested them, and each person's coming back saying the same sort of thing. And when 4 people who don't know each other grow something out and come back saying the same thing, you know it does what it says on the packet.
Yeah, it's quality.
What I mean? Yeah. But the next one's going to be the Sour Neo,
right,
with the soulmate. So that's the next line, and after that it's going to be the Lilt with the soulmate. So as we're basically getting everything fully tested, everything will start to get released.
Right.
And I did like a post a while back on Instagram asking for people who want to do some seed testing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had such an amazing feedback from people. I couldn't even get through all the messages, it was that much. So I selected a few people, and they're all growing them out. And I like this way of testing, where I can test it myself as well, and my friends are testing, but it's nice to actually put a few seeds out and show the public other people's growing them as well. Because not everybody's got a perfect grow room. Some of these guys that I've sent seeds to have got maybe like a small little tent in the UK or something like this, and they can really see what the seeds can do in all the different situations.
That's incredible. It's good as well, because it finishes the community. When you're sending seeds out, other people are going to grow it in different ways, and when they're like exactly what you said, when they're pulling out phenomenal results, they're pulling out a really, really good, strong mother. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, it's quality. And I can see just by speaking to you now how passionate, and you're in it for all the right reasons.
Yeah, and I enjoy even like getting the feedback off the people and staying like communicating with the people, and even the people that buy my seeds. I'm always on Instagram, available on there to send me a question about my stuff. I'm always there to like sort of answer, and I think that's good for people as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I was speaking with Prama yesterday, and we was talking about this, that there's a lot of people that, especially some of the bigger seed companies, that have kind of gone past that line of corporate, and the people that were, 10, 20 years ago you could talk or you could approach, they're kind of sort of sitting a little bit on their ivory tower now, and they're sort of, you can't speak to them for love or money, which is a bit sad, I think.
Yeah.
It's turned into like a corporation. They're just interested in the bottom line and the money.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the way forwards.
No, I think it's good to, like, I can understand not everybody's got the time sometimes, but I think as long as you can get through some of the messages and stuff like that, I think it's always good. Even if they're commenting on your post or stuff like that, I think it's good to answer the questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Where are your seeds available? Obviously, for legal countries, that you can buy them. For non-legal countries or people that just want to preserve the genetics or after souvenirs, where's the best place that sort of people in Europe and the UK could find your seeds?
Yeah, Simply Souvenirs.
Yeah.
They're always stocked with most of my genetics. And also Manchester Seeds,
right,
and Attitude Seed Bank.
Right, okay, that's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, so they're the main 3 that I would say that have always got my lines in stock, and they've got a good selection of my stuff as well. Even some of my older lines, which have been sold out, so they've even still got a few of those packets left for people as well.
Right.
So they'll be like super limited.
There's a lot of old genetics. People are after slightly older genetics just so then they can sort of take a new path, or they can breed those things into a new generation.
Yeah, and I'm always like, I always like to see people using my seeds.
Yeah.
And making their own like crosses and stuff like that, and seeing what they produce from them. And because even if you give the same group of people and you give them all the same strain, okay, so we say pick 6 people and give them all a packet of seeds and tell them to do some breeding from it, and they'll all go down different routes.
Yeah.
So if they were to breed that packet of seeds over a couple of generations, they'd all come out with something completely different.
And your seeds that you put out, are they feminized or are they regs, or do you have both?
I do both, but
Right,
mainly my main thing is regular seeds. That's my main thing. I've done 2-3 sort of feminized lines where I've done like I did the mandarina kush, the sour mandarina, and the gingerbread.
Right.
And that was one sort of feminized line. I did another one which was the orange soda and jungle juice.
Right.
And recently I did the orange matrix and mandarin head stash. So I've just done like sort of 3 sort of separate little feminized drops, but all my other lines are all regular.
All regs. And just for the listeners, what's the difference between the feminized and the regular seed?
Well, you're pretty much guaranteed a female plant from your feminized seeds.
Yeah.
That's what we're most people are aiming for. Not saying that everybody's feminized seeds, that's what you're going to get. But that's why you tend to see 99%, that's what you used to see back in the day, 99% feminized. Because even when you grow out hundreds of plants, I've seen a full-on male come from a feminized seed.
Right.
Yeah, once you grow out numbers,
Not even a turner, just a
not even a
straight
turner,
up.
straight up male. And maybe 1 in 1,000 might do that. So you always have that chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so feminized seeds are meant to be all female, and your regular ones you get your male and your female.
And do you think that there's a difference actually in those, either whether that's in turbine profile or just the growth rate, or faster growth, slower growth?
No, I think they can be both on par with each other. I think it's going to be easier for somebody to pick 2 female plants to breed from, because it's easy to pick 2 female plants. We know how they smell, they know how they taste, and then to reverse that plant on the other one. So you can do that, but for me, it's finding that male, that special male that adds something very unique, something unexpected sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I used a Chimtal Afghan male to make like an Afghan line.
Where's that from? Is that an old one?
Yeah, well no, it's not that old. When we went to India,
Right.
there was a few of us went to India on a trip. We went up to Malnana village, and where they make all the hand-rubbed hash, and we collected some seeds and stuff like this. It was an amazing time. But a guy from Afghanistan came out, and he brought some seeds from his like farm. Now there's another guy on Instagram, Himalayan Connection. He has a lot of these Afghan lines now available from all the different regions, but the ones we first got were the Chimtal, and the male that was used, once I crossed it to the females, the offspring started to make pink pistils, not white, pink.
What?
So the male added the pink pistils. So I was like, wow, this is amazing, yeah. I've selected a male, not knowing, and it's added pink pistils to all the like offspring. And you see this, especially outdoors. Indoors you don't see it so much, but outdoors when you grow it, you have all these pink hairs coming up. And it's like magenta pink, yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's super bright.
I've never seen anything like that before, but that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, if you look on my page, there's some pictures on my page of the mandarina crossed with the Chimtal and the cherry cookie crossed with the Chimtal, both with pink hairs.
And when that dries down and cures properly, are those pink hairs still there? They're still prevalent? They die a little bit?
Nah, it's a very different colour, but it's not orange like it normally is. It's like a darker sort of, almost red. I think this is where you would have got some plants back in the day, and they call them the red hair type, red beard and things like this.
Yeah. That's sick. And what was it like actually being in that village, seeing people? Did you actually see him rolling the hash themselves?
Yeah, even the whole family, the children,
Wow.
the wife, everybody was out. It's like, it's a family thing, it's a culture there, and it's viewed like any other crop, like it's a bean crop or potatoes or anything.
It's part of the job, it's part of the daily duties and chores.
Yeah, so the women, they would be there, you'd see them with their sacks collecting it all, carrying it up to the top of the hills, and then they would sit there and do the hand rubbed. And we got some of the stuff from the children and from the adults, and it was really good. I was saying to the children, like, which one's
makes
the best? Who's the best? Pointing to the little guy, yeah.
Oh, was
the little lad, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for the listeners, how did they actually make that hand? Could you explain that process?
That's hand rubbed. So it's what they would call charis, and they would get the fresh plants once it's harvested. And
so that's like the full flower, like the sticky end flower. Yeah.
And they literally pick off with their fingers all the big leaves, and then they start to do this like rubbing back and forth action. They take off small bits and they rub it back and forth on their hands.
Again, whilst this is wet.
While it's fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then by the end of the day, or after a good few hours, their hands are just totally covered in resin. You could see like the children hadn't got the technique quite right.
Really?
And they still had like little bits stuck in theirs, or maybe theirs they'd press a little bit too hard.
Oh, right, and get a little bit of leaf in it.
That's it, or just a little bit greener,
Right.
or a little bit of more of the we call the pistils. The pistils would be stuck in it and things like that.
Wow, so there's a proper art to it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I bet there must have been some old dude there that was just like a master, like a fucking Jedi.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, the old guys are like experts. Yeah, but I think the women are the best. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's probably the technique. That's what it is. It must be down to the technique.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And what was the actual smoke like off the sort of adults and the children?
Yeah, I find the fresher stuff isn't as good. I find the stuff that's been cured for a while.
Okay.
For like the year before, that was the stuff. When you smoke that, it would just like knock you out almost. Yeah, I just having to sleep all the time after smoking it. I was just like, nah, I need to have a little like siesta. I need a nap.
You need to relax.
Yeah. But I think being up at that altitude as well.
Yeah.
And smoking at that altitude, and what they were doing was like chillums with tobacco as well with the hash, and then smoking up at that altitude, the chillums. It was just blowing my mind. Yeah.
So what's a chillum?
Chillum is just like almost like a clay or a stone pipe.
Right.
But it's just a tube, and it has a stone in it, and they'll make a little mix with the tobacco and the hashish, and then they will pack that down, and they'll do a little ceremony almost. They to Shiva, hold it up to their forehead, and say bomb, and that's it. Smoke that.
That's
Chillum.
Cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. So
that's wild, man.
nice little ceremony like behind it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's involving the whole family, whole community. It's a technique and something that they can pass down from generation to generation. That must have been really special.
No, it was an amazing journey and amazing trip altogether. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you see any land races out there, or whilst you was out there?
Yeah, we collected some seeds from a few different things. So this I think probably this year we'll be growing out a few of those ones.
Right.
Last year we did all the Afghan seeds.
Yeah.
And then this year we'll probably do more of the Indian ones. But there was a couple there that I found that just smelt a little bit more unique than the normal ones. And as you would go up, so the whole mountainside is just covered in it. So and you have all these little farm houses blotted about, and as you would go up, sometimes you'd find slightly different smelling ones that one farmer had selected a little bit different. And then you go up to the next field, and even as you go up to different altitudes, even some of the same plants would start to grow different.
You know, this goes on to a really interesting concept that my friend brought up to me, and it's still sort of swimming around in my brain. I've brought it up to a couple of people, Dr. Callie Seaman, and a couple of other people that I've brought it up to. And the idea is, it's about the pressure deficit that plants are grown in. So let's say if you're growing in the UK, or you're growing at sea level, the pressure where you're growing that plant is different. So if you've got your extraction on, if you're indoors too hard, it's kind of almost like sucking the plants, and it's pulling some terpenes out of the plant potentially, because it's taking it straight from the roots out the stamina, because the plant's kind of like constantly sweating. So his idea is that pressure in the room should be adjusted to an exact point for an exact strain, because theoretically these plants are originally from a higher altitude. So they would have a different pressure around them that they would still genetically have within the stems.
Yeah, no, there's a big difference when you start to grow these plants from these places and you bring them back and try to grow them indoors.
Yeah.
They don't like it like a normal, like the hybrids that we've been growing for the last 30 years, and they've all been grown indoors, and we've bred them indoors. When you take these land races, they don't like it. When you grow them outside in Spain in the Spanish sun, then you get a total different plant.
Right.
I find just growing plants outdoors in general is just less stressful for the plant, and they just naturally like it, and they express their full potential, and they express like my orange soda, for instance. You see the leaves are full on sativa leaves, and they go much thinner outdoors, where they don't do that indoors. And my indicas, you can really see the indica in it outdoors.
What do you think that is? Do you think that's just like a slower light on, light off?
No, I think that the natural everything outdoors just lets the plant express its original, what it's supposed to be. I think what we do indoors by putting it into a certain pot size, we're restricting a certain growth even. Whereas when you put that into the ground outdoors, it just does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you really see it.
But it's something that I'm interested in. I want to do some research. Again, I was speaking to another friend the other week, and he was saying it's kind of like Rocky. You know, when Rocky fought Dolph Lundgren, they're from the rush. He sort of said, he was trying to do an analogy. I mean, he was way stoned, and he was saying that, you know, outdoor plants are rocky, and they're natural, and they're hard, and they've got spirit, and they've got, you know, true vigor and courage. Where sort of indoor plants and hydro plants are kind of like Dolph Lundgren. They're sort of grown in a laboratory, and they might look great. They might be able to punch super hard, or, you know, have super high terpenes, but they're never quite going to have what Rocky has. Yeah. If that kind of makes sense.
Well, the terpenes for what the sun produces is something like, I'm going to say, last year the cherry cookie, the best crop of it was grown outdoors like that, and the flavours were immense. Right. And much better than any of the indoors that was produced. Right. So, and that's the same clone that everybody had.
Right, that's great. How do you, if going outdoors so much, how do you get around the problem of pests? Whether that's sort of mammal pests coming and having a look at see what's going on in the new habitat, or... Yeah,
I think one of the main problems we have really is caterpillars.
Really?
Yeah, we don't suffer from anything else really. Spider mite, aphids, whitefly, stuff like that doesn't ever become a problem outdoors, and I've never seen it like take over any of my friends' grows or anything like this. The only problems I've seen is powdery mildew.
Yeah.
And that's normally towards the end of the season. And the other thing is caterpillars. But the caterpillars, you can get stuff like, there's like a bacteria, they call it BT. That's what we tend to use, and that's the only thing that I use really.
Right. Okay.
As a preventative type thing.
Yeah, just yeah. Prevention is always better than cure, isn't it? There's a big thing. There's a large outdoor black market grow in the UK recently, and it got a lot of bad press because what they were doing is, and I think it's to be honest, I think it's disgusting. They were smashing glass, and they were putting all broken glass around the plants. So if any animals come to have a look at the plants, obviously going to cut their feet, or any people just go and have a look, they're going to hurt themselves before they get to the plant, which I think is just crazy.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Outdoors, what's the season for outdoors? For people that don't know, when would you sort of put a seed in?
April sort of time, May, if you want to grow really big plants, and then you can start your seeds a little bit later if you want to keep your plants a little bit smaller and stuff like that. April, May, June, July, you're vegging through all these months. Once you get to sort of like August, September, this is when you're starting to flower, the light hours are getting lower. Right. So by the time you get to September, October, you want to be sort of harvesting. Maybe some of the more pure sativa haze types can go to December.
Right, really
because,
that late?
Yeah, and we've got the season as well in south of Spain and stuff like that. We've got the opportunity to grow these plants full season.
A lot of people say that the water's terrible in Spain. It's like a big sort of thing. Do you agree, or?
Yeah.
It is.
It's not the best. Definitely not drinkable. No.
Okay, so do you want to give any shout outs to anybody whilst you're on the podcast, to big up anybody, or hashtag or @ anybody?
Yeah, just like check out, I say, like Manchester Seeds, Simple Souvenirs, Attitude Seeds.
Yeah.
And like other people that have like helped me this year doing the grows and stuff like that, and doing all the testing. We've got like a few people on Instagram. They all know who they are though.
Right.
Yeah,
okay,
that's it. So yeah, always appreciative.
All right, awesome. It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you on the podcast. A huge thank you for coming over and having a chat with me. It's been ace. And you fancy going to a club?
Yeah, definitely.
Alright,
More smoking time. We've got some fire to smoke here. We need to get through it.
Fire.
Yeah, that's
All right,
it.
safe. All right, cheers, buddy. Thank you. Respect. I just want to say a big thank you to Stony Talk for setting up the interview, and it was a massive thank you to Trichome Jungle Seeds for actually coming on the podcast. We're out here in BCN in the middle of the coronavirus, so it was all hands to the pump, and it was absolutely fantastic to hang out. Cheers, guys, and until next time, I hope you enjoyed the Hydro Chronicle podcast. I wanted to dedicate this episode of the Hydro Chronicle podcast to the One Up Club BCN. If you're in the area, if you're in Barcelona and you want to go down to a private club, then please do check them out. It's a fantastic club. Super retro, and as the name sort of explains, it's all to do with games and consoles. It's all retro in there. So they've got Nintendos you can play on. There's PlayStations. It's absolutely fantastic. There's Mario. There's a huge Slimer on the ceiling. If you're in Barcelona, you've got to check it out. So huge thank you to the owners. Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you for the hospitality, and I'll see you again next time in Barcelona. Peace out, brother.